learn, right? We learn, experiment, fail, learn, repeat. So fix your mistakes if we are doing something incorrectly. So we talked about how something is testable if it has an independent and dependent variable. That means it's an experiment, right? I can change something. I can measure what I changed. And we talked about before our testable question format. How does our independent variable, what we change, affect our dependent variable, what we're measuring, right? We said that the first one is not able to be a testable question because it's an opinion and it's subjective, meaning that I can't measure your opinion in an experiment. No matter how hard I try, it will never be able to be an experiment. Excuse me. But the second one is I can change the type of ball, a tennis ball or a golf ball, and I can measure how high it bounces. Everybody follow me there. If we're still struggling with how to do testable questions, just identify your variables for right now. All right? What about the third one? Do M&Ms melt faster in your mouth or faster in your hand? Thumbs up if that's testable, thumbs down if it's not testable. Thumbs up if it's testable. Can I do an experiment? Does it have an IV and a DV? Everybody at home, I want your answers. Thumbs up if it's testable, thumbs down if it's not. This one it is testable. And it's testable because it has an IV and a DV. Remember, our IV is what? I change. My DV is what? What does the DV stand for? Data. The data that's measured. So because this is a testable question, that means we need to rewrite it in our format. So what is my independent variable then? Landry? Is that something that's measured or something I control and I change? What am I changing how fast it melts on purpose?
I don't know where it is.
Where it is, right? So if it's in my hand or if it's in my mouth. Then what am I measuring? What's the data that's being collected? Joel?
How fast it melts.
Of how fast it melts. So I'm always going to start with what 2 words? Call it out. Call it out.
How doesn't affect?
How doesn't affect. And they're in my boxes. They stay locked up forever and ever and ever and ever. How doesn't affect. Daniel, which one goes first? Which one goes in my first blank, my IV or my DV?
How does the IV?
Yep. So what would I say? How does
the M&Ms how do the M&Ms melt faster?
So let's think about what am I changing about the M&Ms? Where it's what? Andrew?
Where it's going.
Where it's going. So how does the location of the M&M? That's what I'm changing, right? It's either going in my mouth or in my hand. How does it affect? Braylon? How fast it melts. Perfect. This is my kind of experiment. So how does the location of the M&M, that's what I'm changing, whether it's my mouth or my hand, affect how fast it melts? If this isn't what you have, then it should be changed on your paper. If I walk around and it's not changed, then I'm going to take points off because I am great. Well, you get credit for this. Lucas, I think your screen is frozen, sweetheart.
Miss Burley, his screen freezes like every time.
Okay, so maybe it might just be a connection issue. We had some connection issues last class, so if you guys get disconnected from me, all of this will be posted on YouTube after class. All right, so you guys have a way to access it. It's also, bless you, it's also on my website, and it's on Schoology. All right, go ahead and flip it. I'll give you my copy when we're done, okay? What about this one?
Oh,
Should we all volunteer our time at an animal shelter? Cody, are you saying we shouldn't volunteer or it's not testable? It's not testable. I think we should volunteer, but I just said I think, right? Which means it's a what? It's a what? It's an opinion. Perfect. So that makes it not testable.
subjective, right?
It is subjective. Perfect. So I can't rewrite it. No matter how hard I try, I can't rewrite it. There's nothing I could do that would make it better.
Yeah.
I can't test that. What about this one? Which ingredient type in a cake makes it rise the most? Thumbs up if it's testable, thumbs down if it's not testable. It is absolutely testable. But this, if I wanted to be specific, I'd have to design many experiments. I'd have to take away one ingredient and bake a cake, try that 3 separate times, right? Take away the baking powder, bake a cake 3 times and measure it. Then take away the flour the next time, bake it 3 times and measure it. That's a lot of cake, right? So I'd have to be very specific about this. And we know it's testable because it has what? An IV and a DV. Perfect. An IV and a DV. What's my IV? What's my IV? Diego. What I change? What am I changing in this experiment? Well, the ingredient, right? Jace, what am I measuring?
Measuring which cake rises the most.
Perfect. Which cake rises the most? Who thinks that they can put it in testable question format? Asen, where'd you go? You should not be leaving without me. Go ahead, Maddox.
How does the ingredient in the cake?
How does the ingredient type what?
Ingredient in the cake.
Well, remember we have how does and affect.
How does the ingredient in the cake affect what cake rises?
Perfect. How does the ingredient type affect how high the cake rises? Perfect, perfect. I'll give you guys a second just to catch up. Make sure you have what I have. If you don't, then fix it. This is where we learn from our mistakes. Love. You sure can.
Miss Burley,
What's up, sweetheart?
I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but
It's okay.
where do you want us to wait? How do you want this to be sent to you?
You for this one, I'm just gonna have you guys. This one is not gonna be submitted to me. I just kind of want you to show it to me on the screen, just so I can see that you did it.
Okay.
Normally on Schoology, what you'll see is like it'll have a submit button next to it. So I'll show you guys after the do now what it should look like on your screen to make sure everything is good. Okay.
So we take a picture then send it to you, or
You can email it to me if you want to just double check to make sure you have everything right.
So
But or you can put it in the comments, or you can just show it to me on your screen right now. Okay. The things that have to be uploaded into Schoology are like will have a submit button, and I'll show you that. Okay.
okay.
Thank you for asking. What about this next one? How is bug blood different from human blood? Testable scientifically or no? Where are my thumbs up, thumbs down? I'm seeing mixed answers. This one is actually not scientifically testable.
Yes, it is.
It is not. Not in an experiment. Not in an experiment. It could. this is something, we have different kinds of scientific investigations. We have experimental investigations where I have a cause and effect relationship. We also have observational or comparative studies, right? If I'm not, I'm changing something here. What am I changing in this experiment?
Yes.
I am changing something. What am I changing, Joel?
The type of blood.
The type of blood.
Type of
But am I
blood.
measuring something?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
How different is the blood from each other?
But how can I measure how they're different? What are we talking about? Am I talking about the color of the blood, the genetic makeup of the blood, the consistency of the blood, the DNA of the blood? But it's not specific enough for me to test that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Do you see how everybody, or not everybody, but when we were asking what am I testing, people had different opinions about what that meant? He could have talked about the DNA of the blood. I could have talked about the color, right? This is called a comparative study. So this is not testable. There's no specific dependent variable here. Scientists have different kind of scientific investigations. We have experimental investigations that have an IV and a DV, but we also have things called comparative studies, where I might take a look at, like I'm an identical twin, right? So one comparative study I could do would be to look at my blood compared to my sister's blood. I'm not changing anything, am I? Other than like my blood or her blood, but what am I measuring specifically about it? There's too many variables there. That is just a comparative analysis. So there's no specific dependent variable. This is just a observational study. It's an observational / comparative study. Not everything is an experiment. Hey, Radiance, I know. Thank you for joining us. I know we took a second to get caught up or logged in, but I'm glad I finally got to meet you. I just had to make sure it was you, sweetheart. The only creep allowed in this chat is me. So I want to make sure that everybody's who they say they are. What we're working on right now is just something that I sent out in an email. So I want you to stay after to make sure that you have everything you need. Did you happen to have this printed already, sweetheart, from the email? You can type it in the chat. Hey, guys, be patient. Some people just got their computers and are just starting to get this figured out, right? So grace to everybody. What about this next one? What happens to the growth rate of plants when I play music to them? Thumbs up if it's testable, thumbs down if it's not. This is testable. I have an IV and a DV. Now, what is my independent variable? What am I changing on purpose here? Andrew?
Music?
Yeah, I'm not the type of music, just whether or not I play music or not.
Yes.
Right? So I have, this is actually the perfect example of a control group versus experimental group. The control group is the group that gets no music because like the normal thing is that plants don't listen to music, right? My experimental group is the group that gets the music.
Let's play music.
What, baby? They do, but the kind of music we're talking about is like if they had headphones on, right? They've actually done this experiment before. And we could talk about those results after class. But I have a cool video to show you about that. They've done the experiment of whether or not you say positive things to a plant if it affects the growth of the plant. Yeah, positive affirmations. And actually, they noticed that if you said positive things to the plant, it had a better growth rate. So imagine if plants grow better when we say positive things. Imagine how humans do, right? So what am I measuring here then? What am I measuring? Leon?
Growth of the plant.
The growth of the plant. Now, as scientists, we know there's something wrong with this dependent variable. Remember what we talked about in our notes from last week about the growth of the plant? What is wrong with this dependent variable? Joel?
You could be talking about like the height or the width.
It's not specific enough,
It's not specific.
right? So we as scientists would just want to make sure that we are more specific. I know who ate their brain food this morning. Way to go. That's awesome. So who wants to rewrite this for me in testable question format? Who wants to rewrite it for me? Somebody. Go ahead, Cody.
So
How does playing music? Perfect. How does playing music affect the growth rate of plants? You guys are on fire today. And remember, we want to make sure that we're specific. So we would say specifically, let's say in this example, height. Remember, we want to be able to, if I did this experiment, but then I'm asking Kyle to repeat it, I have to have him measure it the same way I would measure it, right? So we have to be specific so that it's replicable. Why is it important for experiments to be able to be repeated? Somebody raise your hand and tell me, why is it important for experiments to be repeated? Somebody new. Somebody new. It's cool, I'll wait. I got nothing but time. I've already had you guys participate. I want somebody new. Allison, why is it important that scientists repeat experiments? So our work might be wrong. What else? What else? Kyle?
Make it I forgot what the word was to make it so it's like for sure
Consistent, right? To make it consistent, to make our research valid, which means that it's truly measuring what it's supposed to be measuring, right? Very good. What about this one? Why does bright sunlight make some people sneeze? Is that testable? Does that have an IV and a DV? It does.
Yes.
I can't change it.
Yes, you can't. Oh, no, you can't.
Look, remember, testable questions have an IV or a DV. This has no cause and effect relationship.
What about a light you have in your house?
I see it.
Huh?
I see it. I see what you can change. It says the bright. How does bright sunlight?
Okay, so I see what you're saying. How would I make this testable then? Let's rewrite it to make, how would I make this testable then, Joel?
So if you want to make it testable, you can go outside and don't stare at the sun, but just stare.
Light inside of your house. You know those things?
Yeah, sunlight. That's not sunlight. That's
No, the lights in your house.
But this is, focus on the word why. It's asking me why that happens. That would be after I drew conclusions about it, right? If it's asking how does it affect it, that's different. But when it asks me the question why, that's asking me to make assumptions about it after I've already determined that there was a relationship. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
Or maybe I'm trying to find out.
What if I said, if instead of saying why, what if I said how does the type of light affect whether or not people sneeze? That's a totally different question though. But when it asks me why, it's asking me to explain results. I don't have results yet, right? I don't have results yet.
If you make it a testable question.
But if I make it a testable question first, I can.
Yes.
Do you understand why I can't ask that word why? Because it's asking me to interpret results that I don't have. So I could say, how does the type of light affect the rate of sneezing? I understand what you're saying, which is why I rewrote this. However, that word why is asking me to draw conclusions about results that I don't have. Right? So like if I said the music thing, if I said, why do plants grow more when they hear music? That's not testable. That's asking me to explain the results, doesn't it? So this is why it's important for us to start with that word how does, because we're asking how one thing affects something else. We can't explain results if we don't have results. I can't explain how you did on a test if you don't take the test. Why did Joel do so well on the test? I don't know. He didn't take it yet, right? My assumption would be because he's been studying super hard, right? What about this one? Do smells affect people's moods? Is that testable?
Yes. Yes.
This
yes,
one is difficult.
Yes. No, it can be testable.
Yes, yes.
No.
Okay,
no, no.
hold on. I want to hear different opinions.
Ooh, I have my.
Shariah, I'm going to let Shariah and Andrew answer this one. Andrew says yes. Shariah says no. So I want Shariah to go first. Shariah, why do you say no?
Because it's not really possible for a smell to affect people's mood.
That's
Well,
what
let's think about the word mood. What about the word mood would make it hard to be testable? What about the word mood would make it hard to be testable? Anybody? Don't call it out there, Brian.
Because it depends on like the certain type of person.
So mood is an opinion, right?
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So no, if you have Lysol,
Your mood
and then you
is an opinion because
It's based on you.
might think you're depressed.
Miss Burley, can I say what I was gonna say?
Okay, hold on. And then Andrew, I like this kind of debate. This is an educated debate. This is a difficult question, which is why I kind of say yes and no. And I'll explain my answer in a second. Andrew, tell me what you think though.
I was gonna say
But I can't hear him. Landry, go ahead, baby.
there has to be an independent variable, and the independent variable I was thinking was the kind of smells,
Okay.
and the dependent variable was like we were measuring the moods. I think
Yep.
that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so let me explain how this could be possibly testable. How many of you have ever been to a doctor's office and they ask you to rate your pain from a scale of 1 to 10, and like the 1 has like a happy face and the 10 has like a really sad face? That actually gives us a quantitative observation.
that's like
If
smell.
we decided to rate mood quantitatively, meaning like on a scale from 1 to 10, we could do this. However,
So
you also have to you have to have enough people that were asked about this. Like you can't just ask 5 people. You'd have to ask a large amount of people. And you'd have to give them all the same smells. But this kind of experiment would be harder to interpret results because mood can be subjective. Go ahead.
We can do this. Okay. So is it okay? All right. So if I ask you, right, how does Lysol make you feel?
What are you talking about?
Like,
how do
what-
we feel?
how-
Like physically?
No, not physically. Like when you smell Lysol, does it make you happy? Like your mood?
Okay. But look, I could say that mood could be affected by, I don't know, maybe something else happened that day that would affect my mood.
Well, nothing happened yesterday that needs Lysol to
And
clean.
you just keep them in the chamber and
You don't know that.
smell, so it's not-
Listen, hold up.
Oh,
This could, like I said, it could be argued either way, right? Braylon, thank you for being so patient. What do you say?
No.
Hold on.
I actually agree with you, and I got it.
So it depends on the way that your scientific brain is thinking about it. But an experiment could be designed, 100% could be designed. The results would be very interpretive though, right? I would have to interpret those results based on somebody else's mood, and mood can be subjective. So as long as when you did the experiment, you were able to take into account that mood depends on circumstance, right? I could say like, I used to like the smell of Lysol, okay? Here's an example. I used to like the smell of Lysol. It reminded me of Sundays cleaning and like waking, like I like that fresh smell. Now that we're in a classroom and I understand the circumstances are different, right? I have to wear a mask. I don't have all my kids with me. That might change my mood and my opinion of the smell of Lysol, right?
Wait, hold on. How
Situations affect
can we change
circumstances.
Lysol? Can we change Lysol? Your mom's cooking. Your favorite meal, the smell. If you bring it into the classroom, would it still change your mood?
It also, but you have to think about what if you didn't have a good relationship with your mom? It would affect you differently than it affected me, wouldn't it?
Who doesn't have a good relationship with your mom?
Some people. So listen, I want us to continue,
You don't? Do you?
Joel.
Okay.
I want us to be able to continue. How because we got other things we got to do. We're about to watch some Mythbusters. Yeah, but I like the scientific argumentation here because a lot of people have different perspectives to back up their opinions. Yes.
I also agree with both of them. When I was little, my mom used to do my laundry, and then every time I used to smell it, it smelled so good that I got used to it.
Preach it.
Right? But like I said, as long as you can back up your explanation or your opinion about this, then I'll accept your answer. This one was a hard one, which is why I left it for last. Because it could be either way. Andrew.
So it's kind of off topic, but not really. No, actually. I saw a video once where they like tested this because like they made like they had something that stinked because like it was like a YouTube video where they were like people who stole packages, they put like a really bad thing in it and he let people smell the he let people smell like two things and they said which one was worse and which one smelled worse and which one didn't smell as bad. And everybody said B.
So it could, if we make it something that's very clear to be measured, then we could do this. But like I said, it would take very clear experimental design to make it objective. Now, what I want to do with you guys next is, you guys should have received this in the weekly email. Not only is it in the weekly email, but I'm also going to show you where it is on Schoology. So, a couple things. If you guys go to my website, or if you access Schoology under today, you'll see there was the do now. There's the Mythbusters practice. Here's your homework. Does everybody at home see that? If you don't, it's also on my website. Okay? Now, remember my website? If you go to the homepage, it'll give you guys all your updates. I'll even put a link to today's class, the YouTube video, in case you missed something. The homework will be up there. And in case you missed what we're doing this week, it's already posted. So today we're watching Mythbusters to kind of go over the scientific method. You guys have the opportunity to retake the quiz from last week. Look, it says scientific method quiz retakes. If your child did not perform at an 80% or higher on last week's quiz, they will have one chance to retake it. That's why we're going over the scientific method again. That's going to be this Thursday. So make sure you guys are ready. Cody.
Is it kind of like the same scenario as when you start the smell changes your mood? But sometimes when I do my laundry and I'm like eating or something, I completely stop because I love the feeling of like the warm clothes and the warm clothes.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that like smell is actually directly associated with judgment. So our nasal cavity is connected to the front of our brains, right? The front of our brains controls something called, it's called our prefrontal cortex. It controls our decision making. So memories are highly associated with smells. Not only that, when we smell something and our brain will decide if we think it smells good or bad, right? That is like a survival instinct. So that if we're ever in nature, we don't eat something that smells bad because it could not be good for us. That there's a reason that our nose is directly linked to the front of our brains, our decision making, our impulse control. So I want to make sure we finish this. This back part, we're not doing the bottom one. And we probably won't do this one, but this one right here will be our exit ticket. Number 2. Number 2 will be our exit ticket. So we have to get to here by the end of the class period.
Oh, Lord, the hardest one?
That's not the hardest one. This one's the hardest one.
Can I walk from my lawnmower? How to do what?
All right. I think that if you organized your desk and only had one thing out at a time, it would really help you focus, babe. So we're just going to go over the scientific method again, right? Our first step is asking a question. Same thing as identifying a problem. So we're going to write our how does format. This is another study sheet. This, Andrew, is something that must be uploaded into Schoology. This one has a submit button, and this goes to everybody. The only reason I called out Andrew's name was because he asked about the do now before. This is 100% needs to be submitted. So if you want to put a star next to it, and your homework needs to be submitted.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we take a picture of, like, how do we send this exact paper that we did?
So there's an app called Cam Scanner. You can use Cam Scanner. You can take a picture of it. As long as I can read it, I can grade it.
Oh,
Okay. So if you look on Schoology really quick, if you were to go into your class, do you see how this one just says PDF?
Yeah.
Do you see how this one, it says due Tuesday? That means that it's an assignment that has to be uploaded. So if it has a due date, it means I'm collecting it. Does everybody at home understand that?
Yes.
If you don't see a due date, it means you don't have to turn it in. If you see a due date, it means that I'm collecting it and it must be turned in.
So what's the app called?
It's called Cam Scanner. I'm going to write it. I'll write it at the bottom.
Cam Scanner.
And it actually, you just take a picture with your phone and it uploads it as a PDF.
Oh, okay. So I'll write
I
it on
use it as a
sticky note.
teacher to upload stuff too. You guys can also just upload pictures if you need to. What's up, Landry?
Also, about that mood thing, remember that Downy commercial where the kid was scared of the lightning? He comes in the bedroom, he smells that nice old lightning.
So I'm right.
All right, I said we could argue that both sides are right. And we could go on doing it forever, but we need to get through with this so that we're prepared for we're doing a lab on Thursday. So we need to make sure that we're ready. All right, our second step is background research, also known as observations and gathering information.
Excuse me, Ms. Burley.
What's up, baby?
Oh yeah, my paper got printed out incorrectly.
Okay.
Is that okay?
What do you mean it got printed out incorrectly?
So you know that yours is so big. Mine is like tiny.
Small?
Yeah, really small.
Okay, if you want, you can just write it on a separate sheet of paper for me. I'll accept that.
Okay, but if I want to write it on here, I still can, right?
Yes. As long as I can read it. All right, so we can ask a question, gather information, we can form a hypothesis. Now I know it says it's not an educated guess. We're going to use the word inference instead. This is an educated inference. If you're in class, I am collecting this, so make sure you guys are focused. It's an educated inference because we observe first and then we infer, which is inferring is when I have observations and then I kind of take them into account to make that educated guess, right? Remember I said the thing about when I heard rain, I couldn't see it, but I heard it. I didn't know it was rain, but my prior knowledge told me that it's hurricane season, and it definitely is not Santa, so my inference was that it had to have been rain. Remember we talked about that? Yeah. So we form a hypothesis. It's an educated inference of the problem question's answer based on observations and prior experience. Observation and experience. This right here is like your super study guide. Super duper study guide. Especially if you're retaking it. Retaking that quiz from last week. If you got below an 80, you get to retake it. Remember, a group is an experimental condition. It's like, you know, I feed Clementine wet food for a week. That's a condition. A variable is one thing. Like one thing I'm changing or keeping the same. So what group is the normal group? Experimental or control, Kyle? Which one is my normal group, the experimental or control? Control, because I'm controlling that it stays the same, right? What group is the one that is tested? What group, ASIN, is the one that is tested? Which group is tested, ASIN? Is it the control or the experimental?
Experimental.
Experimental, because I'm experimenting with it, right?
Mhm.
Perfect. Now I know you're still you're just joining us, Radiance, but you actually picked the perfect day to join because we're kind of like starting from scratch here. Everybody's like, we're still practicing the scientific method, so please make sure you're writing down everything we have. What variable is the one thing that we change? What variable is the one thing that we change? Andrew is going to explode.
Independent.
The independent variable. You guys are rock stars today. I love it. I love it. And I really like having like all these critical thinking minds in here. Cody.
Wait. Oh, wait. I'm about to say something.
Okay.
Okay. So you answer this later, but you said that the nasal cavity is connected to like the brain. And
The front of, yep.
So why when you think of a smell, you can like smell the smell?
So memory is also associated with this part of the brain called your hippocampus. But our memories also help us to make judgments, right? Like if I remember the last time I touched something hot, my brain associates that memory with my judgment. So your brain all communicates, and it communicates using neural path, like a highway, right? So it just that part of your brain, the hippocampus, will send signals to the front of your brain saying like, don't do that or definitely do that. So it all communicates all the time anyway. But our smell is directly connected, not like 100% connected, but it is quickly connected with that first part of our brain. I got a story to tell you about this guy later on after class that has to do with his brain getting affected and changing his personality. Is super cool. All right, but that's a good question. That's a good question.
Miss Burley,
What's up, Caleb?
would now be a good time to ask you a question about well, to tell you that I can't turn in anything on Schoology?
We've already talked about this, and I've asked you to email it to me. And I've already forwarded your concern to our tech support guy. But for right now, you should be emailing it to me. Lucas, this one's a little bit different. It's asking about the variables that we control to make sure we're only measuring one thing at a time. Do you remember what those are called? The factors that are kept the same? It's circled.
The control variables.
The control variables. These are the things that I keep the same to make sure I'm only measuring one thing at a time, right? I can't change, let's say if I'm measuring a vaccine, right? If I'm changing the one ingredient of vaccine and I'm measuring how effective it is. I can't keep them all at different temperatures and give them different amounts of the vaccine, because then I won't know if the change was because of the temperature the vaccine was kept at or the amount of vaccine I gave. I can only change one thing at a time. I got to keep everything else the same. What variable is the data? Which one is it? What is it, Diego? The dependent variable. Hey, y'all may think it's annoying, but it works. It works. How many of you use that trick on the quiz? Ain't no shame in my game. And analysis and conclusion, this is where we draw conclusions from that data and report our results. Now, I think we're going to have just enough time to do both of the ones on the back that I want to, the practice one and the exit ticket. I am collecting your papers today to give you credit for the exit ticket to make sure everybody understands what we're doing. So thumbs up when we're ready. Thumbs up when we're ready. Awesome. I can see Andrew's ready. Daniel's ready. Asen is ready. Radiance is ready. Caleb is ready. I love it. I love it. My class is ready. I'll give you about 10 seconds. And remember, if you can't find something, please message me. I will guide you. If you're at home and you're like, Miss Burley, I don't know where to submit it. Or Miss Burley, I don't know where to find your YouTube video for today's class. I will show it to you. All you got to do is ask. All right?
Miss Burley,
Yes, baby.
is it okay if we email you like a question, or like do we have to contact you through Schoology?
You can email it to me. That's fine. I also remember I have a Google Voice number, so you can also text it to me if that works.
I don't know what that is, but
A Google Voice number is just a cell phone number, but like, you know, I want to keep my private life private, right? Just like I want to keep you probably want to keep your personal life personal. So I have a different number for school than I do for work. They're plugged in, baby. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys this video. I'm gonna show you guys the video. We're gonna do this one together, and this one you guys are gonna do by yourself. We're not gonna do this one. We're only doing numbers 1 and 2. All right? Remember, this is also on my website. So if you go to Unit 1, the 5th one is, will you grab that charger? Hold on, baby. Underneath the table, you grab it and give it to her. If you guys scroll all the way down, you'll see the Mythbusters. There's the testable question notes that we took last week in case you missed them. All right, so here we are. X at the bottom too. Maybe you have to be quiet if everyone wants to hear.
First, let's get some terms clear. There are two main types of variables in the experiment: the independent variable and the dependent variable.